Now, let's say you're a guitar player from the year 1966 when this amp was built. There's no pedals available, you know, you don't have the DS1 yet. Don't worry, this amp here has built-in distortion. And you're like, Mikey, that doesn't make sense. The DS1 didn't even exist in 1966. Well, it all boils down to a little thing called natural gain. This was my face before testing the capabilities of my Fender Super Reverb. This was my face after. You know you're having a good jam when Voodoo Child pops out at the end. Literally gonna have shoulder problems after this video. Behind me is the father of all Fender amps, the Fender Super Reverb, and coincidentally, my father actually loaned me this amp for today's video. In return, he asked that I make the amp look a little bit more vintage. It's a quick fix. That worked better than I thought. For those of you who don't know, Fender got bought out by CBS in 1965. All the Super Reverb amps that were built roughly before 1965 are considered to be the holy grail of clean tone. Immediately when I plugged into this thing on the floor, I was captivated. I eventually came back with a proposition, a trade if you will. I traded my 1966 basement cabinet for this bad boy here. Now, this bad boy here only lasted me about 6 months before it decided to die on me. You all know this, I love working on guitars, but that's because of one thing. Guitars aren't like a microwave, where if you touch the wrong part, you die. Oh gosh, I gotta turn it around to get inside of the thing. Fucking hell. Have mercy. I wish I could be like Matthew Scott and act like I know what the hell I'm talking about, but no, that's just not the case. Yeah, it's just a single piece of plywood, so 60s. You might be wondering, Mikey, are you trying to fix this amplifier with your eyeballs? At this point, I'll do anything to avoid a visit from my guitar tech. If this thing is not plugged into a power supply, I should be okay, right? Fuck was that? Unfortunately, I have to take this thing back to my crazy guitar tech. Sorry, Eric, but I would rather fix this thing from home. This just looks illegal. It's actually to keep dumb idiots like me away from the insides of the amp, the dangerous parts. On the bright side, in 2001, Fender released a reissue of the 1965 blackface Super Reverb, and I have that here in the studio as well. Some of you may not know this about me, but I've been getting into working out, getting fit. Workout number 1, transporting the amp to your studio. Railings are recommended. If you decide to fall backwards, you lose the amp, grab the railing. And of course, all the micro adjustments of the amplifier to get the right shot. Oh crap, wrong way. This is great for the chest muscles because you're really grabbing that amp with your chest muscles. It's great.
Great job. Now take a break.
You know, with all the technology nowadays, it doesn't make sense to gig with such a large amp, but naturally, I did it for years.
What?
Fender amps can be dirty if you want them to. Just take a listen of the comparison between a Marshall and a Fender amp in a live setting. Now, the Stevie Ray tone rabbit hole goes so deep, like deeper than the Mariana Trench, my dude. Surface level, Stevie didn't always rock a Super Reverb, but occasionally he'd have one on stage with him, and it was probably the main reason Fender is selling so many of these amps to this day. If you're playing the blues like this, I'm gonna buy your equipment, straight up. Now, when I say the blues, I'm talking about the 12-bar blues. And this right here is a very popular way to play the 12-bar blues. For example, you could play a blues progression like this. I mean, it's lame, but it works. But you really get the flavor when you add that open E over top. Yes. Here we go, the blues, baby. There's a million ways you could play the blues, but Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of made the Texas Shuffle his thing. makes Stevie's so feely, for lack of a better word, are the rays. The left hand is holding down the chords, and then the right hand is keeping that driving, percussive rhythm. Now, if you notice, my right hand is kind of doing this oval shape. For me, at least, that's the most efficient way to hit all the open strings on the upstrokes. Open string, mute, open, mute, open, mute, open, mute. You could add so many toppings over this progression here. Love them or hate them, humans are always trying to push life to its limits, and it's the same for the musician scene. If 4 10-inch Jensen speakers wasn't enough, players have found a way to make the Super Reverb even louder. I discovered this little trick from my friend Dalton Love, who traveled from Maine to New Jersey with little to no warning. He just showed up at my front door, Super Reverb in hand, guitar in hand, takes my guitar cable, plugs into my Super Reverb, plugs the other end of the cable into his Super Reverb, and now you got 2 Super Reverbs in sync. When you have 2 Fender amps in unison, it is like the cleanest dirty tone you've ever heard. It's quite fascinating. When you listen to Philip Sace's music, you know exactly what he's feeling at that moment in time because he can just do that. Philip actually uses 2 Fender amps for his live shows, and when I saw him, it was the loudest I've ever heard a band play. What I love about this riff is that Philip uses all 5 shapes of the minor pentatonic scale. How lovely! Right into shape number 3. There's shape 4. There's shape 5. Then he starts everything over again with shape 1 on the 12th fret. You all know this one. Shape 2. And then he goes... or something like that. And with the tremolo pick. So that begs the question, how many Fender amps does it take to achieve distortion?
Sorry, neighbors.
Thank you so much for staying till the end of the video. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. But don't forget to subscribe and like before you leave. Thanks. Bye. That table's not bending, is it? Oh, fuck.